race and presidential politics. As Democrats fight for the nomination, is the debate over race hurting the party's chances in November?
No, no, no. Not God bless America. God damn America. God damn America. God damn America. God damn America.
These are the only clips you see.
They will not only attack you if you try to point out what's going on in white America, U.S. of KKKA.
I think this comes across quite differently to many African Americans than it does come across to whites.
I was just at services yesterday at my synagogue, and my rabbi doesn't really sound like Reverend Wright, and he needs to take some of those pills to get really revved up, I guess.
You're talking about his tone and not his words. The sort of fire from the pulpit.
Yes.
Is not something that is unusual in an African American church. That is something, and in fact in many churches in America.
This was really off the charts.
Pretty extreme.
I mean, I've known Jeremiah Wright, and actually Jeremiah Wright is one of the more moderate black preachers.
A lot of Democrats are worried about the tone of this presidential campaign right now. Are you one of them?
I think the tone could be improved.
There's so much blood. This is the kind of blood you can't disinfect with bleach. You need something even a much stronger solvent because you have emotions, 40 years of emotions.
When you hear these excerpts, it's easy to be angry. It's easy to be angry about the words that he used. The question is, what has Barack Obama done with regard to these incendiary statements?
I strongly condemn the statements that have been shown on the tape. I have to confess that those are not statements that I ever heard when I was sitting in the pews at this church.
Some of his critics are already saying that there's an element of unbelievability there, that he was sitting in that church for 20 years. He never heard this pastor say words like that.
I find that unbelievable.
I'm sure Mr. Obama has heard a great many talks like the one we just heard a clip of.
Even if he says that he's unaware of that, he admits that he became aware of these statements last year. He only rejected these statements after these tapes became public.
You know, people are going to try and find out just when was Barack Obama sitting in the pews of that church, and just what did he hear and when did he hear it.
And you also noted the reaction inside the congregation of the church. People jumped to their feet to cheer this. This is the atmosphere there where such comments are not only accepted, but applauded. Certainly Obama knew what sort of church this is.
It seems that you ignore something very important. When Jeremiah Wright makes these statements, the Amen chorus in that church was very loud. His words resonate with a large number of African Americans.
The black church has nourished the souls of black people, and those who go to church with broken spirits after spending weeks and weeks of being torn down.
And the blunt language that he used makes people uncomfortable. You know, when he talks about America's inglorious record on race, and yet many people find something that they relate to in those words, and that's what Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton may want to start focusing on, is this chasm that both the Ferraro dust-up and the Jeremiah Wright dust-up seems to point to in this country.
Now, I have no doubt that the Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago has done many good things. On the other hand, for a candidate who would like us all to believe that he is post-racial, this is an interesting institution. For example, this is what it says about itself. We are an African people, true to our native land, mother continent, cradle of civilization. Quote, non-negotiable commitment to Africa. Not to Chicago, not to Illinois, not to the United States of America, but to Africa.
A congregation with a non-negotiable commitment to Africa reminds me a lot about Jewish synagogues who are committed to Israel. It doesn't mean that they're committed to Israel above their commitment to the United States. That stuff does not seem to be in any way offensive or incendiary.
I wouldn't say it's racist, but it is certainly racial.
We can use Jeremiah Wright perhaps as a lesson of history, a moment to reflect deeply on where the country may be at this moment.
We can spend all morning talking about this. The American public are watching their foreclosure rates climb. Oil prices are going up.
Well, sir, you're changing the subject. I'm asking you.
Well, of course, this is subject matter.
You don't think it's relevant that this man was a member of this church for 2 decades?
No, you've made it relevant.
And this fellow...
We've made it relevant here for the last 4 or 5 days in this network. But the fact of the matter is...
It's not just this network, sir.
I know. But the fact of the matter is people like to move on to other things. I've answered your question.
Well, I'd like to... Well, no, I don't think you have answered it.
I think we ought to move on. He's rejected it.
Senator, it isn't a question of guilt by association. Forgive me, it's not that he happened to walk into a room and Reverend Wright was there. He's been a member of this church, a member of Reverend Wright's flock for 20 years.
I think that that's wearing out. I mean, I don't think people are interested in that.
Senator Schumer, are you troubled that Obama would belong to a church, be married by a minister, have his children baptized by a minister who says these kinds of things?
No, I agree with Chris here. Look, each campaign is wide-ranging. Supporters are all over the place.
If I may for just a moment, this isn't just a supporter. This is a man who was the head of his church for 20 years.
I would like to suggest that we move on.
I'm a little surprised at this, Senator. You're not troubled that that Barack Obama belonged to a church. That doesn't bother you?
I don't cast aspersions on Senator Obama for what somebody else said. We'll be in a game here where we'll never debate the issues. We've spent half our time already on this, and it has nothing to do with Barack Obama's views.
Well, let me ask you, Senator Schumer, about something that someone in the Clinton campaign said.
How come that doesn't surprise me?
It's the same kind of thing. We can spend our time talking about Geraldine Ferraro and Jeremiah Wright, but the issues is where does Barack Obama stand? What are these major issues we face in the country?
I think we should just accept what Barack Obama has said and move on and consider the serious issues.
They've got to talk about the issues. Much more on the issues.
You know what? We're going to move this forward.
Let's move it forward.
We should move on.
Let's move on.
Well, I am going to move on to the economy, but I would disagree with you to this extent, Senator Schumer. We don't know a lot about Barack Obama.
Let's move on.
And when I think a lot of us find out and are somewhat shocked to find out what his minister said over the last 2 decades, I actually think that's a very legitimate question in judging the character of a candidate. But let's move on. The big question, the key question, how big a deal is this? How damaging is it to the Obama campaign?
I think it's a very big deal.
I'm really surprised that the Clinton campaign seems unwilling to play this very strong card, which is that this man either believes this, has some affinity for what his pastor is saying, or he just joined the largest church in the community for political reasons, for opportunistic reasons. The Clinton campaign needs to decide, are they going to make an issue of this or not? The media cannot sustain this kind of thing.
Now the first in what will be a weekly update on Barack Obama. Many of you have sent us emails asking why the senator won't come on Fox News Sunday and face tough questioning like every other candidate. Back in March of 2006, I met with Obama, and he promised me face-to-face he would come on this program, but so far he has not. Well, as of today, we are starting our Obama Watch. It has now been 730 days, 13 hours, 53 minutes, and 10 seconds and counting since Obama agreed to be a guest on Fox News Sunday. Senator, when are you coming on? Tune in next week for the latest.